our infrastructure is aging, we had to budget money in that electrical repair just for those needs. MCE, our maintenance contractor, does not touch electrical. And a lot of times, if we can do those without going through MCE, we save the administrative fees of going through them. So a lot of those things we can budget on our own, and street light knockdowns and things like that, we have to have a budget to be able to take care of those, so.
Thank you. One cost that seems to have gone up, or at least we're budgeting for it in an astronomical way, 900%, is telephone in the park. Whereas last year, the revised budget shows an amount of $800. The recommended budget for this year, this upcoming year, is $8,000.
I believe it's a typo.
It is, that's an error. I will fix that in the final budget, it should stay $800.
Okay, that will be a good cost. All right, that's all. Thank you.
But that
That was something we were supposed to be on the lookout.
Didn't you already spend that?
we all handled it independently because we're trying to make sure we work with staff on a positive basis.
Is that like a Where's Waldo?
No.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, that concludes our report today. If you would open up the public hearing, we can see if there are any public comments, and then we will continue this item to June 20th.
So, first off, are there any other council comments before we go to public hearing, if you don't mind?
No, my only comment is, I think you've done a wonderful job, Deborah, on this, and, you know, there's a lot of clarity in this budget I don't remember seeing last year, so thank you so much for what
It
you've
was a
done.
team effort.
Yes.
Well, the presentation, I think, really facilitated the presentation, but the fact that we had the meeting, you put the charts up there so everybody could see it. It was a several-step workshop. I think it has been very good. It would have been nice if we could have seen the numbers maybe a month earlier. So next time we could start the number part. You know, we did a lot of dancing around with just words. The numbers are what it all comes down to, so the earlier we see them, the better off we are. But thank you very much. It was an excellent process. We need to repeat it. Any public comments on the budget? Anybody? Pat, would you like to give Jim a
Well done.
presentation? Thank you for the...
Well done, everyone.
Anyone? Okay.
I'm the only person that said anything positive in town.
Great presentation, very well presented.
Beautiful.
With that, we'll close the public comment section on the budget. We'll move to the regular agenda. So there was nothing to really approve here on the budget. So we're going to talk about there's been several discussions during the initial operating plan and capital budget process where several council members had brought up the ideas, and our city attorney also had said yes, he consented with some of the ideas that should we consider moving from a general law city to a charter city that might have some financial as well as operational improvements in how we run our town, and we shield ourselves from all of the assembly legislation that continually is passed and kind of puts restrictions potentially on what we have to do or how we have to do it. So with that, do you want to give us a quick overview on what we've got here today, Teresa?
Yeah, there's been a little opposition and speculation as to why this is on the agenda. And staff's intent was this is the first step in creating an ad hoc committee who will do all the analysis, look into the implications, and bring back a thorough staff report for action, for city council to take action on.
And I would like to say on your behalf, there were 3 council members that did express interest in moving or discussing and investigating the move to a charter city, and there were only 4 of us at that meeting. So that was 3/4 of the group. So I think that, three council members expressing interest in something moves for it to be put onto the agenda by staff. So,
Do you have any questions?
No, and while I wasn't there, I think it's a good idea to explore, because I know in the past we have had an issue with, I know we investigated the real estate investment tax, and we could not do it. It's a major, that is the town's industry, real estate, and it is a major opportunity for revenue in lieu of a parcel tax or in addition to a parcel tax. And so I think it's worth investigating. I think we should always use every opportunity we can to remain current and investigate every means of income for the town that there is. Taxpayers shouldn't have to always bear the brunt of income-producing activities.
My only comment was that I wish we had in the staff report this time some discussion of the implications of going to a charter city. Just by coincidence, the town of San Carlos is also considering the same item, and in their staff report, they have a pretty thorough outline of the pros and cons and that type of thing. But I've been assured that that's going to be the next step, is to make that type of information available for the community to look at and be able to comment on, and to before we go, and jump full bore into a major project. I think we ought to have a discussion with the community.
Well, I have been pushing to change to a charter city long before I came on the council, for several reasons. That it certainly changes the way we do business. We can run the town much more as a business would be run without all the restrictions from Sacramento. In early 2008, I did some calculations, and I found that if we had a 0.5% real estate transfer tax, at that time, based on probably 2007 real estate transfers, we would raise about $2.5 million. The other advantage of our charter city is that we no longer need to pay certain wages for our contracts. At the present time, all of our contracts, public contracts, I believe, have to pay union wages, and that may or may not be competitive. And so as far as changes to the town, I believe, based on my discussions with Bill Collins, we don't need to change the way the town runs whatsoever. I think that, at least unless there are some things I don't know, there are all kinds of advantages and very few disadvantages. We can have taxes, for instance, to replace the other taxes, the parcel tax that we have, if we can raise enough money, which I'm sure all the residents would be happy about. Utility taxes, various other things that we cannot do as a general law city. So I am very much in favor of finding a way to become a charter city, and I would certainly appreciate whatever we need to do to go through the process of determining what it is, so that we can help the residents and help our budgets very much.
I believe there was another city, was it Los Altos, or another city down the peninsula a year or so ago that either explored this or completed the process.
I think Bell, California was a charter city.
Okay.
Well, that we don't
No,
know about
yeah.
that.
So, I'm not opposed to investigating this. I think that this has to be looked at from all different angles. There's certainly pros, there's certainly cons, and how it would affect our town. We're not as big as San Carlos. We don't have as many other services and high-density housing and industry and commercial and retail. So we're really kind of unique in just being a single-family residential community. And so we certainly want to keep that flavor of our town. So I'm not opposed to us looking at it and investigating it and looking at it and informing our residents. I understand that we would have to go out to a vote with the residents. I mean, it's not something that the council themselves would just decide.
by a majority vote. So, but it's not something that we should undertake lightly. It's something that we should undertake if we want to review it and investigate it. I haven't made up my mind one way or another.
I don't think anybody can make up their mind until after we understand what the ramifications are.
Councilmember Dolly has.
But he investigated it very deeply.
Yeah.
But however, you're right in the fact that whatever we choose to do as a council, it has to then get a majority vote to change of the population. So it's a long process. I spoke with Bill at length about it. It's not something that's going to be easily undertaken. It will take some dedicated time, and then the council has to agree. So it's going to be, we're not talking about something that potentially will be on the ballot in November. It's going to be a little bit after that. So it's more like a year process. So with that, we can take public comments. Any public comment on Charter City? Yes, Pat?
Does that change the balance of the council in any way? I know nothing about charter cities.
It's how we choose to define it. You can change it, but in the initial discussion that we had when that conversation came up, I would think that most of the council members said at the time that they wouldn't want to have that process changed, but it can have a profound effect, as Councilmember Godby said, on our procurement processes and being able to have cost as a key, if not overriding, decision factor on procurements, for example. Whereas right now, we can't do that under certain types of things that we're requiring. Any other questions? So we have a motion to appoint an ad hoc committee to start investigating this, working with the city council, or
Yes.
with our attorney.
Yeah, I think it would work best if you actually appointed them.
Right. Right, so would I need approval to do so?
I would like, not necessarily, but it's better to do it.
I prefer to have approval of the council to do that.
Okay, I'll move that you.
I so move.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item is the item on the status of the Facebook project. And because this may involve potential litigation, the council is going to do its discussion after it convenes into closed session. However, the council will take, at this time, public hearings, hear the public comments with regards to this item. However, because of what I just said, the public will not get any response from the council on this matter. So are there any public comments with regards to the Facebook EIR item? Malcolm?
Yes.
I had the electronic version. You need to show some of our people how to compress their pictures down. Because yours were substantially less than 2 megabytes at least.
I might take a little bit longer, that's all right.
No, it's okay. I think we need to hear what he has to say.
Well, Honorable Mayor and members of the council, I'm Malcolm Dudley, 51 Catalpa Drive. And as you know, you received material from me. I thought it was helpful to give you some of that background. And what I will do is read my statement to try to condense this so it's as short as possible. But it's extremely important. There's certainly a long history in the town over this kind of an issue. And so let me read to you as a way to move through this as quickly as I can. Well, I've given you copies of the mailing that went out to all Atherton residents in 1977, 35 years ago, showing Highway 84, the new Dumbarton Bridge, continuing north on the Bayfront Expressway to Marsh Road, with traffic flowing right into Atherton, impacting not only Marsh Road, but many Atherton streets. Traffic increased 700% along the Dumbarton corridor. On the back side of the mailer, you will find over 1,000 Atherton residents opposing the widening of the two-lane streets. I'm also giving you 2 pictures of Marsh Road, the Atherton portion with the feeling of a country lane with a canopy of beautiful green oak trees, with a channel separating the road from the Atherton properties along Irving Avenue. By contrast, the second picture shows the unincorporated portion of Marsh Road, 4 lanes, the covered drainage channel, no trees, and a typical highway wall separating the Atherton properties from the widened roadway. Which Marsh Road would any of us choose, the attractive countryish green entrance or the ugly 4-lane expressway? And I think the obvious answer. I've heard some have a concern for people walking or riding a bike along Marsh Road. Would anyone feel more secure walking or biking along the 4-lane portion of Marsh Road, where traffic moves faster and you're up against a cement wall? The fact is that there is no provision for a new bike lane for either portion of Marsh. Therefore, there is no added benefit or safety for bikes. For pedestrians, it would be even more dangerous, as pedestrians would have to cross wider crossings where cars would travel at faster speeds. Widening streets leads to increased volume and traffic speed. Atherton residents successfully fought the battle to preserve 2-lane streets for Atherton 35 years ago and must remain vigilant. I look at what happened to Whipple Avenue in Redwood City, originally a 2-lane street. Increasing the street to 4 lanes only led to increased traffic and congestion, and the further increase to 6 lanes failed in the same way. We should learn from our mistakes. The increased traffic is a result of latent demand. Induced travel. Demand responds to roadway capacity expansion. Consistent with the theory of supply and demand, the general topic of research concerning induced travel is that the time and cost of travel, i.e. due to a new road improvement, will increase the amount of travel. In other words, road improvements alone can prompt traffic increases. These increases may be caused by a number of factors. A congested roadway or intersection acts as a choke point and may force drivers to shift the time they choose to travel, i.e. leave work 30 minutes earlier, switch to transit, or choose another route. If the bottleneck is alleviated, these drivers may change their behavior to take the route that was formerly a bottleneck. This phenomenon is known as latent demand. Drivers today know Marsh Road, Middlefield Road is a constraint point, and some choose to travel at a different time, take a different route, or travel by a bus or other transit to get to their destination. Widening Marsh Road, Middlefield Road will reduce the time needed to travel the intersection, causing traffic increases on these streets as drivers change their behavior. The Facebook project's impact to the Marsh Road Middlefield interchange occurs only with construction of the West Campus under a long-term 2025 conditions, with all other regional projects assumed to be in place. The traffic levels being projected are conservative and may not even become reality. As I've suggested to the council, there's an opportunity to work with Facebook in helping to solve problems in a mutually beneficial way without having major detrimental impacts on Atherton. As an example, Facebook has incorporated transportation demand management, TDM measures, to reduce vehicle trips, including chartered buses and shuttles from Caltrain stations to the Facebook campus. Facebook could use its clout to persuade Caltrain to restore train service to our Atherton train station, with Facebook using its shuttles to take employees from our station to their campus. Atherton residents have provided $10 million to Caltrain for capital improvements over the past 20 years, yet we receive no weekday service. We need to identify our needs and find ways to leverage a partnership with Facebook to solve problems in our mutual interest. Please don't be part of the Los Angelesization of our mid-peninsula communities. We must avoid doing those things which only lead to greater negative impacts. And you know, to take these pictures, I did this 2 days ago on my way to work. Now, as we know, there are different ways you can deal with reducing traffic impacts. Here's a picture of Marsh Road under the Atherton portion. Now this was taken at 6:45 and virtually no cars. We know what happens, of course, at later times in congested times. We know what it is on other streets. We know what it is in El Camino and others. But the fact is, there are a lot of things that can be done that significantly reduce the traffic impacts. I mean, this is very clear. It was also true with the second picture, which was along Yanacorpe with that very ugly wall. And I think it's certainly true, the facts that were there 35 years ago, when people in this community really wanted to retain the rural character, and certainly this is what it is, and when you change that, it's going to dramatically change the impact we have when we come to town. Imagine, you're off work, you're stressed today, and you come back along a wall. It's really not the kind of feeling that any of us would like to see in our community or that we're proud of. So I would hope that we would take the approach in working in a partnership with Facebook, because I think they have a huge amount of clout that could help us to accomplish some things. And this is our opportunity, and I hope we're not going to take a step back toward destroying what is so important to the appearance of this community. Thank you.
I'm Larry Sweeney. I live at 3 Irving Avenue, and I too have, through the years, we've been there for 33 years now, through the years have watched the struggles to widen the roads, Middlefield and Marsh and even Alameda and others, and strongly support the idea of keeping as much of a rural atmosphere as we can in Atherton, and one way of doing that is making sure we don't put any 4-lane roads in. I think one of the things that especially troubles me is that we're really victims of our neighbors' development and of their efforts to gain tax revenues for which we gain nothing, and yet we are being forced to suffer the environmental consequences and the costs of putting in transportation for them, for the people who are cutting through our town to go to work or to get to the freeway or do whatever. And you know, they're talking about putting in huge developments of new businesses and new residential areas. And unfortunately, Atherton is in the way of a lot of that expansion in terms of people getting from there to other places they want to go. I agree with Malcolm wholeheartedly that if you build it, they will come. And that the natural state of affairs in transportation, which I, for the last 20 years of my career was in intelligent transportation systems, the natural state of transportation is gridlock. And as long as you let developers keep developing, you will always end up, regardless of how much you expand your transportation system, with gridlock. We have, I think, a special obligation. What do we have, 9 schools in Atherton? And we have a special obligation to the people who are coming to Atherton for school things or our residents to be sure that they have adequate access. And that's been a huge problem because our schools have expanded so much. And living in Lindenwood, it's very difficult when schools are getting in, particularly Encinal and MA and Laurel, when they're convening in the morning or letting out in the afternoon. It's almost impossible to get out of Lindenwood, and it's dangerous as well. So I think we need to look at traffic mitigation things that we can do that will help smooth that out. But I think we should be forcing Redwood City and Menlo Park to solve their own transportation problems. And maybe we should be creative in helping them do that, of how can this traffic be routed through Menlo Park, through Redwood City, rather than having them force it come through Atherton. You look at Woodside Road, it's totally jammed. And yet they're talking about more development on the other side of 101. And they're not doing anything about improving that area. Years ago, there was talk about putting in a Willow Road Expressway in Menlo Park that would go from 101 to Sand Hill Road, essentially, connect. Maybe Menlo Park ought to be looking at that as a way to handle. Maybe they ought to be making Willow Road 4 lanes, rather than talking about making Marsh 4 lanes even for part of it or all of it. Thank you.
Any other public comments with regards to the Facebook EIR? Okay, so seeing none, we will convene to our closed session
Session across the street,
across the street.
and then we'll come back here and finish up the rest of the agenda.
Then we'll give a report out of the closed session and take final public comments and then adjourn the meeting. So for those of you who aren't going to wait, thank you for coming. Those of you who will, we look forward to seeing you.